We're on. We're live. We're rolling with Bill Kelliher from the mighty Mastodon. Welcome, my friend. Thank you so much for taking a few minutes with us today.
Yeah, thanks for having me. How's it going?
We're good. We're good. I love the new album. I love it so much. Hushed and Grim is out now. Get it where you get things. This album got me back into music, man. I was just listening to podcasts for a long time, and now I'm just listening to this around the clock. So thank you, and you're welcome for the purchase.
That's what we like to hear. We aim to please. Thank you.
It came out the same day as a new album from Jerry Cantrell, and so I got to talk to him on the phone around the same time. So I'll ask you the same question that I asked him. Is there beef with you guys for trying to steal each other's thunder?
Always. Me and Jerry, we're always fighting it out. You know what I mean? let the people know behind closed doors. We just, no, I love Jerry, and that it just was, by chance that his record came out the same day. But we target a little bit different audiences, I think. But we do. I'm sure the circles, the Venn diagrams cross in the middle.
For sure.
And there's I love Jerry Cantrell's guitar playing. I mean, I love his guitar tone so much. That's why I got into Friedman amps.
Mm-hmm.
Because back in the 2010, we did a tour with them in the Deftones. Oh, Jerry always, they use in-ear monitors, and they don't need to have cabinets and amplifiers on stage. So he had his whole rig was behind the stage under a blanket, like with mics on it. You know what I mean? So it was isolated. So when you'd be walking around backstage, you just hear this brr, 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 coming out from underneath the blanket. And I walked over and I just kind of lifted the blanket, and I could hear just Jerry playing guitar through his rig. And it sounded like sweet Jesus heaven.
It's the purest. That's the purest source ever.
Right to the source. You know what I mean? And I freaked out. I was like, God, this sounds so good. So I made it a nightly habit. I would just go over and listen to Jerry's guitar rig for a couple songs, and I was like, God damn it, he's very meticulous and such a great player. And I was like, Jerry, what are you playing through? Your tone is incredible. I love it. And he's like, oh, well, it's this Dave Friedman modded Marshall, and I think it was a Bogner cabinet, and he had these pickups designed by Motor City Pickups, which are some of the greatest pickups out there. They sound incredible. A guy named Wade makes those up in Michigan. So I have to have it. I got to have it. Let me have it. And he gave me one of his guitar tech put one of the pickups in my Les Paul Custom Silverburst. And then Jerry was like, here, you can borrow. I have an extra one. You can borrow it and listen to it. And that's what sent me on the another eternal quest for the perfect tone.
Sure. It seems like it never ends. I actually, I wanted to get to this later, but I want to let you know, I actually picked up your STL Tones preamps when it was on Black Friday. I'm amateur as hell. I've got one guitar. I've had it for 20 years, but man, it is impressive how many sounds you have. And that's just from Hushed and Grim, right?
Yeah, that was from, I think a total of 5 amps that I used every one of them on the record. My normal rig setup for the record was, I had a Marshall. I had a Marshall and 2 Friedmans running. I think it was the Jerry Cantrell head, sometimes the HBE. I kind of swapped them out because the Cantrell blew a fuse or a tube or something. I had to get it repaired halfway through the recording. So I ended up getting a HBE Deluxe Friedman, which is one of the greatest sounding amps ever created. And it was that in my Butterslacks head, which it's in close competition with. So I had all 3 of those running at all times with different variations of like, oh, let's put a distortion on the Marshall, and let's put a little reverb on this amp. And then I also had a Fender Turbo King that I got from Dwayne Dennison from Tomahawk and Jesus Lizard, which is
nice to have friends.
Yeah, incredible sounding, clean. If you're going to go for clean, that amp, it does it all. 3 10-inch speakers, and it's got all kinds of built-in effects and reverbs and tremolos that, when it's built into the amp, it really rings true. It sounds very authentic. Obviously, it's all built in there. But use that, and then I have an old Sears Silvertone that when we were doing Emperor of Sand, I was looking for a very clean tone, and the room the recording and had like 50 amps in it, and I just kind of went around looking for the craziest looking amp, and I found the Silvertone. It's called like a Silvertone. It's like a 1646 or something like that. And it's like from the 60s, and it came in the Sears catalog, and it's not, I think it's made of wood. I think it's like a really hard,
Really?
yeah, like the chassis. I think it's kind of like either a really light wood or it's really thick cardboard. It's very cheap, and I don't know. It's got these big fat knobs on it, and I was like, "What is this crazy looking thing?" It looks, it looks like it's out of the '60s. And I go, "Oh, that's a Silvertone. I don't know if you're gonna like that." And I plugged it in. I fell in love with it, so I had to have one, and I bought one of those, and I used that a lot, as much as I could on the record.
You touched on earlier something I wanted to talk about. You just finished a tour of the states with Opeth, and I was going to ask, what are you doing when they're on stage? Because they are it's such an interesting show to watch. The pacing, the ins and outs, the weavings of crazy intense and crazy melodic. Are you checking them out at all, or are you just doing your own thing?
Taking notes, taking notes of what they're doing for sure. Very, very awesome, unique band. They're kind of like I don't know. I want to compare them to Rush and King Crimson a little bit, just because they're so proggy that it hurts. You know what I mean? It's like,
yes.
I can never figure out that rhythm of the song because it's so proggy.
It's incredible. 10 minutes. That's 4 songs is essentially what they've done, but it's all one, and it all weaves around, and they just made such an early career out of that. Now, Gwar, way back in the day, told me they were absolute wild men on the road. Is that true, or have we matured now?
Are you talking about us, or are you talking about Opeth?
Opeth. We at a show, they came, Dave Rocky and one other member who I don't want to name because he got mad at us when we called him by his real name, came over out of costume, and they said, "Yeah, Opeth's tearing up our backstage right now." And I just thought, them really? So I just need confirmation on a 16-year-old thing that Dave Brocky probably was joking about.
Probably was joking, because they're very nice Swedish guys. They might have been like that in the past. I mean, they definitely spent some nights over in the Mastodon room and regretted it the next morning. I know that for a fact, because I saw them all on a day off in Reno, and they were all just, whoa, man. And I think, and the very next night we played, they were gone. I think their tour manager, I think, was like, "Tonight you're not going to hang out with Mastodon. You're going to get some sleep, and you're going to get, you're going to be bright-eyed and bushy-tailed tomorrow for the show, and don't be hanging out with those Mastodon.
Those boys are a bad influence. I've seen you down at the creek." I feel like you've probably been asked this a billion times. What's the most difficult song on the current set list to play live for you?
The most difficult. Well,
because I know they're your babies, and you probably know them back to front.
I do, yeah. Well, like Skeleton of Splendor is a little bit difficult, because when I wrote that song, it was probably 6 years ago.
Okay.
And I was sitting down when I wrote it, and it's kind of like the guitar chord is like the very opening riff. It's like guitar yoga.
Okay.
And yoga. So it's very difficult to play the opening riff. That's for sure.
Okay.
I'm standing up, and I just keep having to raise my guitar higher and higher. I have to use a special guitar for that, because I like to play as low as possible, because it just looks goofy if you have a guitar up really high. I mean, I'm sorry.
I don't care for it, honestly. You're right. You're absolutely right.
Not cool. So I'm like, maybe I'll just have to raise the guitar up, because when I'm, when you're sitting, you're in a different position.
Yep, totally.
Your hand is a little more comfortable. So that's a little bit difficult, because I have to play it by myself, and there's no, I'm naked out there. There's nothing to hide behind. So that one's a little bit difficult. They all have their challenges, that's for sure. Mm-hmm. Especially with the new album, has a lot of twists and turns, and sharp left turns here and there, and there's like a lot of changes, like in the sounds, and from clean to dirty, and kind of split second, a lot of counting. We've kind of done some different. There's a lot of like sixes in there where we do a hold, and it's like, okay, you got to remember it comes in after 6.
Five. Go. Yeah.
Even like Tear Drinker has some stops and starts like that are kind of weird, which is, unusual for such a poppy song. But
so is it difficult to learn the shortened version, like when you played it on the Late Show, or what was it? Seth Meyers?
Yeah, that was difficult. That was very difficult because we had just learned, it's like we written the songs over a year ago, and then we learn them, record them, and then okay, well, a year later it's time to go on tour, so let's go back and have to relearn these songs that we recorded over a year ago. So relearning them, and then I kept saying, guys, we have to learn this the shortened version. And we're like, well, we're in the middle of the tour. We have 2 days until Seth Meyers. We have to play the shortened version. And, none of us are schooled musicians. Like, I never took a lesson in my life. And I know theory, but only from general practicing it. I never studied theory. So if someone tells me, oh, well, it's 7/8 and then it's 5/6 and then you go to the G major and then the F sharp diminished. I'm like, that doesn't mean anything to me. Just show me. Like, I have to see stuff.
7, 9, 8, 4. You got to do it like, yeah.
Yeah, I have to like see it and practice it in order to play it. I don't read music. A lot of people are like, oh, you don't read music? No. Why would I waste my life reading music? I just hear it and I see it, play it, and I can learn it pretty easily. So with that said, yeah. So for Seth Meyers, it kind of was like the day before at soundcheck. I think we did the shortened version, which, it was difficult
because it's honestly, I've listened to the album version over and over and over, and then we started playing it a couple weeks ago, and I'm struggling to even notice where the differences are. That's how smooth the edit is. So I guess a testament to whoever cut it down, but the fact that you guys nailed it is another thing.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, we practiced it a few times, but we did it. We know what we're doing. We just had to you have to kind of untrain your mind of what you're so used to. Because, music is all about, for us, getting into a rhythm. Like when we go out there live, like you've played it a week straight. You pretty much got it ingrained muscle memory in your hands, in your brain. You're just like, okay, I know what I'm doing. I don't even have to think about this. I can just stare at weird people in the crowd and smile and not have to...
Excellent segue on your part. Which member of the band on an average night has the most dudes in the crowd that look like him? My money's on Brent. Braun, very close second.
Most people in the crowd are just big bearded dudes, honestly.
That's what I mean. So I think we're going Brent, right?
I guess.
So I want it to be Troy because I want it to be nothing but wizards. But
yeah. Well,
I was gonna say I have seen you guys at least 3 times. And the first, I think the last time was at a stationed concert we do every year called the Lunatic Luau. It was 2005, so you're just coming off Leviathan, and I made a point to track each and every one of you down backstage at some point and just say, hey man, it went great. I don't know how any of you reacted. I just wanted to let you know we have spoken at least one sentence to each other before.
Where was that?
Virginia Beach Amphitheater.
Who were we on? Was it the not the Ozfest, but the Mayhem Festival?
It was like a day off Ozfest. So like Ozfest was in Western Virginia or Northern Virginia, and not all we poach basically the whole second stage and just say, hey, you got a day off, come down here so we can put our own 2-stage festival day.
Rob Zombie?
Yes, Rob Zombie was a headliner. Rob Zombie, Mudvayne, you guys, I can't remember too many others. It was like my first event here. It was like a huge deal.
Oh, to me. I think I kind of remember that. I think we were partying with the Mudvayne dudes and just going wild.
Gorilla suits sound familiar?
Maybe.
So real quick, going back to the Seth Meyers performance, they set up a microphone for you. Why?
Because you get paid more when you have a microphone in front of you.
Good to know. Did not know that.
It's true. I mean, I do sing backups live, but they told me, they're like, hey, if you have a microphone in front of you, you get paid a little extra because you're
what a country.
Because I mean, in our band when we first started, I remember when signing we got a lawyer, and he wanted to say, well, how do you want to divvy up all your publishing up, and who writes what music and stuff like that. And I thought about it long and hard, and I said, everybody in the band has a job, and everybody does something. It might not always be this person that writes every song. And I just think it'd be silly if it's like, well, the guys that write the most get paid the most, because that's going to be like a competition now in our band.
Sure.
I've seen so many bands break up over that. Bands that have one guy that does all the writing tend to kind of sound very similar. Every song, you know what I mean? And I said, you know what, just divvy everything up 25%. So no matter what people do in the band, everyone always has a job. And sometimes Troy doesn't write that many riffs, but he writes lyrics. And sometimes Braun plays drums, but he writes most of the lyrical content lately. I just didn't want to be like a competition, and that's kind of it's worked out well for us. It's like everybody writes and everybody contributes in their own ways. And maybe back in the day, Troy drove the van like 90% of the time. It's like, well, how do you pay somebody more for that if they don't write the music and you have it in the contract where, well, the guys that write the music get paid more? Well,
right. Well,
we're not that kind of band. We're a very fair and democratic kind of band, and that's what keeps us going. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and that's always kind of come across because you guys have documented behind the scenes in the studio so thoroughly over the last several albums. So on that subject, have you watched Get Back at all?
It's in my queue.
Yeah.
I've definitely been meaning to watch it because I really I like the Beatles a lot. And I remember when I saw the preview for it came out, and I was like, oh my God, this is amazing. And it's like never before seen footage of like inside the studio with the Beatles. And
it's,
yeah.
I just finished it. It took me probably a week, but it's something else, man. I don't want to spoil any of it. One of my favorite things that Mastodon does is, I don't know how else to describe it other than you go wheedly, 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 chugga, chugga, chugga real fast. And is it tempting to throw that into every song? Because I would imagine that's fun as hell to play.
I don't know. There's no rhyme or reason. It's just riffing, until something sounds really cool. And it's like, oh, that, when you got something good. It's like when you're fishing, you throw it out there and you feel a little nibble and you're like, oh, I got some inspiration. I'm gonna keep going. And then you feel like, I'm reeling it in. It's not going to be a big guy. And
right. Okay.
And you feel a big guy coming. You're like, this is the fucking riff. This is the head crusher.
That noodly interlude in Sickle in Peace into that just crushing. I props to whoever. You guys done.
Thank you.
So good.
Thank you very much. That was very Rush inspired for me when I wrote that little interlude.
Sure.
But it was, it's definitely a group effort.
I heard recently read Adam Nergal from Behemoth described Brent as an alien. Is that an accurate representation of what he brings to songwriting?
I would say so, yeah.
So the voters of the Mastodon subreddit recently did like a survivor voting thing off the tracks from Hushed and Grim. So basically everybody voted for their least favorite and they eliminated one until they've chosen the best out song on the album. The last two, would you be interested to know what they came down to?
Yeah, why not?
Yeah, I was going to tell you anyway. Gobblers of Dregs and More Than I Could Chew, and I believe More Than I Could Chew was the eventual winner. I love that song because that interlude at the end, I get real strong Alice in Chains vibes from that. Am I imagining that? Is that on purpose? Is that just kind of like, hey, whoa, I kind of hear that now? Or am I imagining it?
No, I don't think you're imagining anything. It's just, we have a lot of influences from all bands that we look up to and enjoy listening to. And, a lot of people make the assumption that we, oh, you're a metal band. You only listen to metal. Like I barely listen to metal.
Right.
When I was growing up, I listened to the Beatles, Led Zeppelin, all the rock stuff that was Van Halen, all the shit was on the radio. And then I moved on to like punk rock. And then I moved on to everything in grunge. And then my metal bands were like Iron Maiden, Slayer, Metallica, Voivod. I don't know. It's just like the kind of Metal Church, like the stuff that was more accessible, because I grew up in like the suburbs in upstate New York, where it wasn't very there wasn't a lot of that stuff to be found. You really had to seek it out. And you know, and then my musical choices or musical tastes kind of, you know, they're always changing, but like all that catalog from when I was a kid, even, you know, back to being 15 years old, learning Crazy Train, I still listen to all that stuff. You know, it's like I never outgrew it, I guess. And when I want to put on something that's comfortable, that makes me feel like right at home, I'll put on like an old Dead Kennedys record, or Soundgarden, Louder Than Love, or Bad Brains, or Kill 'Em All. You know what I mean? Like I still, or Led Zeppelin. It's just like I'll go back to, like, I want to hear something fucking good. And you know, I'm 50 years old, and nowadays everyone's in a band, and there's a trillion bands out there, and a lot of them sound the fucking same, and they're just like, they're overproduced sounding, Pro Tooled, and you know, it doesn't turn me on. I like the grittier, like the Red Fangs and the Baronesses and the High on Fires, and yeah, I could go on and on. There's totally bands like that, but there's so much shit out there. It's just like, ugh, why do you guys like this music? It's terrible.
Yep, it's I think a lot of it's generational. You know, I really do, because there are some bands that you didn't name any that just then, but there are some bands that were, you know, big names back then that I swear the older generation just says they like to screw with us, but I don't want to name any names and piss anybody off. So what I wanted to ask you again was, cut you up with a linoleum knife. That was the most, I saw that in the theaters when the Aqua Teen Hunger Force movie started. Did you know what you would be animated to look like ahead of time? And did that go into the affect the songwriting at all? Or am I asking you to go too far back?
No, I had no idea. I think Braun said, hey, they want us to write the intro to Aqua Teen Hunger Force, the movie. And I was like, okay, what style should we write this in? And I think he was like, I don't know, let's maybe do like a thrash kind of. And I was like, how about this? And you know, it's just something that kind of came off the top of my head. And I just remember Braun and I sitting in our old practice room for about like 15 minutes, and we're just like, yep, there you go, got it.
That's incredible.
Cool. And then but that kind of stuff's easy to write. That's, to me, that's, you know, I don't know, that stuff's more palatable to easily come up with than something like Hushed and Grim. Like that took a lot of
not as many layers.
No, not really. Just add a couple harmonies, and you know, it's very Slayer driven.
Oh yeah,
thrash, and that's the kind of shit I grew up on. So I have no problem like writing that kind of stuff.
Okay,
you know, and then Brent soloed all over it, and basically when we wrote that song, I think Braun and I had put together all the rhythm parts, the intro, and then we're like, okay, well, a solo can go here, and I think we had about like, I don't know, 2.5 minute song or something. And we get down to Adult Swim, and they're like, we're recording it in their studio, and they go, okay, here are the lyrics that have to go. And it was like a book this thick of lyrics.
Oh my God.
Like, okay, do you guys know anything about writing music? Like, there's about 10,000 words and they're like, the song's got to be, then they're like, the song's got to be 45 seconds or however long it is. It's not very long song. They chopped it in half. And then they tripled like the lyrical content, because we're like, yeah, sing here, and then you have a break, and then you sing here, and they're like, no, it's just gonna you got to fit all these words in there, and we're like, okay. So that's why when you listen to it, it's just non-stop gibberish. You know what I mean? And we didn't plan it that way. That's what happens when you get someone who writes cartoons and comedy. And someone who writes Slayer riffs and put them together. That's kind of how that worked, and it worked out great. I mean, it really did. I didn't think anyone was going to like that at all, but we get requests. We get requests for that daily. Can you please play that song on tour? Like, no, not really. It's,
well, it was the best part of the movie.
We had a lot of guys in the studio, and you know, Braun's singing King Diamond, like it's him singing really super high, and Brent and Troy are in there. But there's that's a lot of studio magic. It's not, I don't know if it's something we could ever pull off live unless we had a bunch of gang vocals and really rehearse that really well.
Yeah, I've always thought that drummers are too busy to be singing, and then Braun just makes me think, nope, here we go. Like it's just an impressive feat, honestly, because he is doing so much.
Yeah, he really is. But he takes care of himself and he practices doing that. That's how you do stuff like that. You practice it and you put your mind to it. You know what I mean? Like instead of just saying, no, I can't do that. It's like, you can practice.
Yeah. All right, real quick, rapid fire, a couple of questions. It's a Monday night. It's 1997. Is Bill watching Raw or Nitro?
Neither.
Okay. Kiss or Van Halen?
Van Halen.
Simpsons or Family Guy?
Family Guy.
All right. This has been an absolute pleasure. Bill, I love the album. I love all the albums. Not gonna lie, I love all of them. But Hushed and Grim, man, I'm telling you, it got me back into music. Get it where you get your albums. We're playing Tear Drinker right now, so never stop listening to FM99 or Mastodon when you're. Bill, thank you so much, dude. This has been an absolute pleasure.
Thank you.
Good luck with the rest of them.
See y'all later. Take care.
Bye.